What the is we doing?
Hey, welcome back to episode 19. Yes, we made it. Cheers for that. Almost a milestone.
I mean, it's probably over 100 at this point, but whatever.
Most likely. But yes, today we're bringing you, I feel like we have talked about this topic in the past. It sounds familiar of sorts,
It does.
but we're bringing priorities. So, funny how we came up with this topic like 5 minutes ago. I'm reading this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Going crazy there. All right, it's a book that we in the past read it. Like I know you
Mm.
read it. I read it in the past as well, so I'm kind of like just rereading it. And I think a concept that touches this book is about priorities in certain ways, like what things or what priorities you should give a fuck about. Because like going about not giving a fuck, I mean, living, not giving a fuck about everything is not gonna take you anywhere. But you have to give a fuck about something. That's what gives you a purpose. That's what gives you some sort of meaning of life, you know?
Mhm.
So what are
Right.
your thoughts?
So yeah, just to clarify, so we're talking about the book, the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and that was the author was Mark Manson.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of books that he's written, but this is one of those ones that was like really foundational, I guess, in his career. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, more so to the point that it's just like it's something that a lot of people have read, and especially with today's society in relation to like things like social media and just the day to day of life, people have a tendency of getting caught up in like small things that are not meaningful or not
Mm-hmm.
like worth much in the end, right? Like external validation or hoping that people like you just because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is, you, your opinion of yourself, and those people that you hold in like high regard, right? So those people that
Mm-hmm.
you have close friends or your close friends, your family members. And sometimes it might not be the like family members. Sometimes you might have to choose your family because sometimes you're not coming from a place where your family actually supports you in the kind of way that you need. Different circumstances for different people, but regardless, it's all to come down to the fact that at the end of the day, there's a limited amount of energy that you can expend.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all finite with energy, right? As human beings, we only have so much life in us. We don't know when our time is going to be. So, given that that's the case, there's only so much that you can actually care about. And there's only so much you can actually care about within your days, right? Because again, you don't know what's going to happen within the next couple of days, next couple of hours, right? So live life to the fullest. That's kind of like the overarching theme, right? Live life to the fullest. Make sure that what you're doing is something that's worth like your time, your energy, and the
Mm-hmm.
things that aren't, and you can just disregard. What do you think?
Right. So I think that's kind of like the overall topic of the book, kind of like why you shouldn't give a fuck about a lot of things in your life, because ultimately they're kind of like just little things that just adds up into your life. But at the end of the day, there will always gonna be like top three or top four or even top five things that are they're giving meaning to your life to like for you to wake up in the morning and be like, hey, today is gonna be a great day. Let's actually kick it off. And
Right.
there's one thing that kind of like I I seen this a lot on like social media that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these self-improvement gurus they tell you like oh like you every time you have to tell yourself that you love yourself that you're happy and blah 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 kind of like the law of attraction and this book kind of touches on that part saying that if you have to repeat that multiple times that's probably means that you're not there yet. So like if you have to constantly repeat to yourself like, hey, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, then it probably means that you are not happy. That's why you need to kind of like repeat these things. And that's kind of like
Right.
going into the law of attraction. That's a whole different topic. But anyways, so I think overall, like you mentioned, it's 24 hours. We have our lives. We live our lives. Most of us work or, do some sort of type of work or have our daily routines or self-care, like we do, like, our routine, and our energy are gonna be drained. So at the end of the day, I feel like prioritizing your time or your energy to the people that you want to give it to, it's really essential. And that kind of goes back to something that I mentioned in the past about being aware of
Mhm.
give what to give your energy towards to, whether it's a person, whether it's a project, whether it's some people, their priority might be their career. So that's also, another thing too. So if
Yeah.
I were to ask you, what are the things that you prioritize like on your life aside of tasks
Mhm.
and more overall? Oof.
Right. So, we go back to like things like purpose, right? Like, so what's your purpose in life?
Mhm.
It's all like that's a really loaded question, and most people, like, pretty much wager to say almost everybody, probably like 90,
Mhm.
95%, don't have an answer to that question, right? Most people are just
Right.
living their day to day. Well, rather, they're living their life day to day, and they're just kind of existing. Um, my purpose, again, it changes, and that's something that you have to be very comfortable with. Things will change over time, right? Priorities will change, and the things that you think are important right now,
Mhm.
they will change, right? Like a very easy example, let's say you're in high school and the thing that's most important to you is sports, right? You're an
Mhm.
athlete. Eventually that will go away, and then you need to reprioritize and change your perspective on life. It is what it is.
Right.
But regardless, right now, in this stage of my life, my priority is to become the best version of myself in relation to like the fitness industry, right? I want
Mhm.
to create my own thing. I want to build my own gym or build some sort of brand. I want to essentially do what's happening in the fitness industry better because I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. Um, I know for a fact that fitness is something that is essential, right? If you have a strong foundation in your life with fitness, that just
Mhm.
maximizes everything that you can actually do. And it's just going to enhance everything. So for me, it's just kind of taking that idea and then spreading it across as far as I can, right? And
Mhm.
for me, I definitely feel like the fitness industry in general right now, it's not really in a place where it is doing that. It's more just monetizing people's whatever lack of knowledge, right? Most people don't know
Right.
what to do, so they just gravitate towards stuff on YouTube or Instagram and not really understand that it's a lifestyle change, right? It's not just you going to the gym to look a certain way or do a certain thing. But again, that's right now.
Mhm.
Overall, if we go back down to the basics, to the fundamentals, obviously having a family, leaving some sort of legacy behind, that's always going to be like that's
Ooh.
innate in us as a
Right.
species. Go ahead.
Okay. So you're kind of giving like your purpose of life, and I respect that. But I was going more with like kind of like where you kind of went into, like, for example, if we bubble up what you mentioned in the first about fitness, that can be kind of like your career or like just
Right.
leaving your legacy in within that career. So that's kind of like your priority at now.
Hmm.
For example, if I were to tell you my priorities, it will be my health, because like you cannot
Okay.
go anywhere or anywhere without my having a good health. That's the reason why
Right.
I go to the gym, why I'm trying to get my full 8 hours of sleep, eat healthy. That's my priority. Then comes, my family, of course, because my mom and pops, my sisters, friends, of course, like you and my closest friends. And I think then I will put kind of like what I'm building, like the legacy that I'm trying to build, something like similar to you, but in a whole different realm. And I think the career that I'm building, and I think that kind of
Right.
like goes after. I think that's kind of like I would put my priority at this stage of my life right now. Like, how would
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
define yours? Because I know you have a partner. Because you mentioned that things change, priorities change. So when I
Hmm.
was with somebody, when I was in a relationship, she was part of my priorities, and now because I'm
Right.
single, she's no longer there.
Right.
So
Things
yeah,
change, right? So yeah, like
yeah.
from that perspective, I'm always again, just if you want to keep it simple, right? It's kind
Hmm.
of going to be the relationships that I have with my closest confidants or people, then obviously my, career and the things that I'm trying to achieve in that sense. Um, and then obviously integrated in there somewhere in the middle is my health, right? Because I place such a high value on that. Um,
Hmm.
and then obviously later on, that's when we start getting to things like legacy and family and doing something more. But again, if you go like stack rank them in order, right? So like relationships, probably my fitness, overall health, right? Career, I'm just kind of trying to generate some sort of, bigger business model or whatever I want to do.
Hmm.
And then family later on. Because again, like maybe stack ranking is like 1 through 4, but eventually it'll flip and it'll invert depending on circumstances and how things shape out in life. But that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
Does that
that's actually a
answer the
good.
question?
That does answer the question, and I think we can go from there a little bit, kind of like dive a little bit more deeper into
Mm.
more meaningful stuff. But I think, what are your thoughts about this? Can two things have the same priority at the same level? So, for example, let's say you can prioritize one thing and have the similar importance as the other, because I feel like a lot of this happened. I have seen like people saying like, okay, you know, especially when you're in a relationship, they be like, okay, who comes first, like your wife or your mother? Because usually your mom is gonna be like highest priority, or like you,
Right.
can you prioritize those, let's say the four things on the same level, like
Oh
no
no,
best.
not. I don't think so. Right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
at certain stage, like there's always going to be something that comes first to your mind. Like what's the
Mm-hmm.
first point of a thought or origin, right? So that's kind of where like you can start beginning the process of like stack ranking or just prioritizing like which one comes in front of the other. They're like, where does your mind go to first? Like, what's the first course of
Mm-hmm.
action? Where do you elicit that emotional response from? And then from there, you
Right.
can kind of start delegating where those positions are.
That's a good answer. Yes, I actually agree with
Yeah,
you. There's always some
yeah,
gonna be
because like
some
at the end of the
priority.
day, yeah, like at the end of the day, you can't see, like you can't put the same amount of energy into everything in the same way because there's just not enough time in the day and there's not enough
Mm-hmm.
energy, right? And again, it goes back to like we're human beings, we have a finite amount of energy, we can only do so much in a day. So like
Mm-hmm.
things take more precedence and priority, right? Sometimes it's going to take you more time to, develop relationships and be consistent with like a significant other than it is to constantly just be focused on work. But there's a season for everything, right? Because sometimes you have to just be focused on work. And I can tell you from my example that there's been times where I've prioritized my work compared to my relationship. And then the inverse is true as well. Um, Again, it all really just depends on where you're at, what you're trying to do, what are you trying to build,
Mm-hmm.
and then adjust accordingly. Like there's no right answer. And again, have had this conversation. Like there's no right answer to anything. There's just, actions and reactions or actions and
Consequences.
consequences to what happens. Um, so it's on you to kind of adjust and pivot accordingly. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's where we start getting to things like your ability to pivot. If something happens, how do you adjust? Do you kind of just have absolutely no idea what to do, or do you adjust accordingly and make the right decisions, or at the very least make good decisions that's going to lead to something better later on?
Okay, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it can shift. It changes, like you mentioned. I think priorities changes, whether it's monthly, seasonal, yearly. It's always ever changing thing.
Take this
And
for example,
now,
right? Let's say your
mhm,
health just starts declining rapidly. Like your
right.
priority is going to immediately shift to your health, right? No
Yep.
matter how focused you are on your career, or no matter how much you focus on your family, if you don't take care of your health, that's going to, put you down on the side, and eventually
Hmm.
that'll take you out. So like that's the idea of like always needing to readjust as needed.
Right. Yes. Now, let's say where can we take it? Now, one thing that I'm curious about is how to prioritize these things. Like, okay, let's rephrase that. Importance of priorities, of having priorities, being aware that in your life there should be priorities, and the rest you should definitely not give a fuck. Whatever is the rest, they need not so much of your energy on a daily basis. You can put time in it, like like partying or like social media or just all these things. And I think you've mentioned one point. I kind of want to talk about that. The traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the video that you sent me? We can touch
Oh
bases
yeah,
on that, and we can
yeah.
go for it.
Yeah. So again, like different seasons require different focuses and different priorities, right? So
No,
like
but
if you want to go back to go for it.
well, first let's answer the question about why is important to have priorities, or at least how they play a
Look, I have a
huge
priority
role.
right here.
Hey, that's
This is
Nemo.
Nemo.
Nemo. Tell
All
the
right.
story behind the name.
Oh, we thought it was a girl at first, so we called her Nami, and then the balls dropped, and then we switched it to Nemo. That's
For
the
those
story
that
behind
don't
that.
watch anime, Nami is from One Piece.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I need to catch up on that.
So,
But yeah, going
look,
back to
now
the
he's
question.
sitting right there.
Oh, heck, he wants to be on. He wants to. He
I'll
wants
leave
to
him
be on
some
camera, bro.
space right there so he can be right there on the camera.
Hell yeah!
All right. So now we have a
All right.
guest. This is our first. This is our first guest.
Oh yeah,
Hello,
he
friend.
is the first guest.
All right.
Any questions for our guest?
I don't think so. I think he's just chilling there on the sofa. He's made it that his bed.
Oh damn, that's cool.
It is what it is.
Can crash on the bed anymore, bro. That's crazy.
Mm-mm. All right.
But
All
yeah,
right.
going back to the importance of having priorities, or why should we be aware that in our lives there should be priorities? Bless us.
Because yeah. So like again, it goes back to just like direction, right? If you
Hmm.
don't have a sense of like, what's the thing that's most important, or at least have a rating for like the thing. So like you wake up, the first thing you do in the morning is X, Y, and Z, right? So like what is that? And like how is that contributing to your overall, you know, well-being, or how's that contributing to your overall mission that you have currently in your life? So again, like if you wake up and the first thing you do is just like watch social media, that's already telling me you don't have, or you don't understand the importance of prioritizing different things, right? Because that's just wasting time. Like, what exactly is it that you're looking to do? And again, there's a season for not having responsibilities, so you can do whatever you want, and eventually you can figure that out. Right. So that's super
Hmm.
important as well. Understanding that sometimes you don't need to necessarily have things in order. You can just be doing a bunch of different shit all at once. And then eventually you'll kind of figure it out. And I figure, like for me personally, that's kind of how I went about it. I tried a lot of different stuff, saw what worked, saw what didn't work, and then I adjusted. Right, like when we met, we
Hmm.
were in the same program, right? Computer engineering, computer science, and we were going to college together. And my priorities shifted simply because it was not something that I wanted to do, but I was willing to try, right?
Hmm.
I needed to try it just to see if it was something that I actually wanted to do. It was something that was pushed on to me from my parents, or not even from my parents. It's just something that I thought would be, interesting to do. And there was a potential to make a lot of money depending on the career, right? Cool. Tried it, didn't work out. Then I tried my hand
Hmm.
at, personal training and fitness, and that ended up panning out. No priorities there, no like orders of anything. I just tried stuff, and eventually it kind of set itself out by itself. So the importance of priorities, it gives you something to focus in on, because at the end of the day, if you don't have anything, then you won't focus at anything, which means you won't want to do anything, and then you'll just kind of lounge around and not do anything. Um, but again, like sometimes that's just something that you need to do in order to figure yourself out, and that's okay.
Hmm. Yes, I agree with most of the stuff that you mentioned. Definitely agree with that. For me, having priorities is definitely giving guidance, kind of like like in a boat, in a ship. I'm thinking about One Piece now. Having a direction to where you're going to is important, because if you don't have priorities, you don't control. your life. Well, it's not much of a control, but you don't have a direction to where you're going towards to, and you're not
Right.
enjoying the journey. You're just going with the flow without priorities. You're just gonna, be kind of, your life is gonna be dictated by your surroundings, whether your parents, whether like society. You get your 9 to 5, you get a shitty job that you don't like, then you fall into vices, you go partying, you just go with the flow. And I
Right.
personally, I done that in the past. I have gone with the flow, but ultimately it always comes down for me. It's like, what the fuck I'm doing? I need some sort of direction so I can
You need something to
enjoy the
ground
journey.
yourself. Right.
Yes, I'm a very
Mhm.
grounded person, and you know me. Even though like when I
Right.
travel, I go with the flow. We done that, and I think having some sort of direction, and I can kind of make the comparison between traveling, because that time that we did the road trip, recall that we didn't know where the fuck we were going or where we were staying. We just knew
Right.
but this day we're gonna be in this city, and by this other day we're gonna be in the other city, and that's kind of,
Right.
and it playing out. We had the best time there, and I think that's kind of like the comparison that I have with priorities. Is kind of like having some sort of direction for your life, having some sort of control of the journey that you are living on an everyday basis, because otherwise you're just gonna be dry, and you're just gonna
Right.
not have purpose. Honestly, you just lose that
So I think
touch
I
with.
have a better way to kind of like
Go for it.
organize the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, like have a loose roadmap of where you want to go. Right.
Yeah.
Like I know I want to go to this place. I don't know how I'm going to get there.
Right.
Great. We want to be financially free. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going to happen from now until I get there, but I have an idea of where I want to end up. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of giving me like a compass, right? Like my North Star.
Mm-hmm.
I have a vision of the future. I don't necessarily know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to do my best to prioritize the things that will help me get there. Right?
Exactly.
Again, that's going to go back to being financially independent, being financially smart, not making sure you're not just spending money out of nowhere or spending money on
Mm-hmm.
things that are unnecessary, making the right investments. Like these are the little things, right? Learning, reading from books, learning from others that know more about money, finding mentors. Like these are the things that are going to layer the foundation for you to get to the goal. Again, I don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know when it's going to happen, but eventually, if you do the right thing over a longer enough period of time, you'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I think having that kind of like, well, I wouldn't idealize that much either, because there were some studies that say like once you feel like you accomplish a goal, you get the same dopamine um release as if you were getting the goal. I think
Right.
it's more of having some sort of control on the journey that you're living on today. Because if you have priorities, you can prioritize that on your day. And this is kind of
Right.
like this tactic that a lot of successful people uses. They don't time block. I mean, they don't use their calendar by like meetings like a specific. They usually time box. Like let's say during this time, like this 2 first hours in the mornings, I'm gonna dedicate it to myself, whether it's going to the gym, eating or eating breakfast, just journaling or
Self
whatever.
care.
Self care, yeah. And then from let's say 9 to like noon, I'm gonna do work, like productive work. And then in the afternoon, I'm gonna do just planning. They time box their time and their energy. And let's say like, okay, like from this certain period of time, I'm gonna spend the time with my family. They don't specify the action that they are gonna do. They don't say I'm gonna go for a walk or I'm gonna go for a well, or to the gym or whatever. They just know that
Mhm.
they need to do something on that prioritization on that thing, and that's kind of like I have been practicing myself. Now that I'm unemployed, I've been like trying and failing a few things to see what works and what doesn't work, and yeah, that's why I'm day trading. Well, I'm paper trading right now, so to see if that's profitable and I can maintain it. And then also in the afternoons, I'm doing still working towards my career because I'm not losing touch on that, and I'm doing kind of like this certificate to like prepare myself for an interviews and stuff, you know. And it's a matter of having that priority. And I think that's why kind of like the book talked to me. When I was reading it, it was like, oh shit, this makes sense because I'm connecting to this book in the sense that I'm not giving a fuck about like other stuff around. I do want to post a lot of pictures of traveling because I do want to create the blog, make my Instagram kind of like a travel blog because I'm very passionate about that. So, but I'm seeing that most as a hobby for me because traveling for me is a priority just because I'm young. I got
This is
the
a
freedom to
conversation
do so,
between friends.
and
None
I
of
just
what
like
is
to
said here should be
experiment,
taken as
experiment
legal
new
advice.
things.
We are
Nothing
not
is a great
experts in
opportunity
any way.
at that stage.
Take what
of my life.
resonates and leave the rest.
But yeah, mic drop. Boom.
Boom.
But yeah,
All right.
I think
I
priorities.
think that about covers it.
Yeah, I think to wrap it up, priorities, it definitely gives some meaning to your life at the end of the day.
Right.
Having those crucial. And for that, cheers.
Cheers, sir. But again, remember, you don't always have to have everything planned out, right? It's just a loose structure of where you want to go. Try different stuff, see what works, what doesn't work, disregard, and then just keep filling it up.
It's funny how we went in silence for like a whole fucking minute and then you dropped. Good
Then I
job.
what?
Anyways, and then you spoke the last few words.
Oh.
I gotta listen to the recording and have another laugh. All right, we'll talk to you on the next episode, which is in like
Peace.
2 minutes.